worked down there or volunteered or helped out, you would know that our safe is so secure that it's very hard to get into. And one morning in particular, and I had done this several times before, he sat at this safe for about 20 minutes and gave it all he could, and he just couldn't open it. And I came in and I just said, look, can I help? I've never done it before, but I'm happy to give it a go. And he said, no, I've got this, it's really tricky. So he sat at it for another 20 minutes or so, and then eventually gave up. He called out to me and said, look, maybe just, I can't do this anymore, can you just have a go? So fair enough, I step in, first time, and open it on my very first go. And he's heard about it all week from the staff at the family store. It's nice to know it's secure. But have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like giving up? You've given something all you've got, all you've physically, mentally got, and it just doesn't go anywhere. And you just can't get the outcome that you want. Have you ever felt like you've given something all you've got and got nothing in return? Maybe in your current stage of life at the moment you feel discouraged. You're feeling these same things. Maybe you've hit a wall in your job. Maybe you're having some struggles at home. Maybe your finances just aren't getting better. And often this isn't without a want for trying. You've given it all you've got. You've done all that you possibly can. Yet sometimes we just don't see the return for our efforts. You've given it. You've given this situation your best. You've given that relationship all you can, and it's still not getting any easier. You've forgiven that person over and over again, yet they still keep hurting you. You've given your job all that you could, and you're still not seeing the fruit for your labour. We all get to that point, having given something all we've got, yet we come up empty. And sometimes it might be something God's actually led you to. You feel like the Spirit's led you to this season of your life. You've done all you believe God's asked of you, yet you're still not seeing that fruit in front of you. I want to invite us to open up our Bibles this morning to Luke chapter 5. And we see Simon, Peter and Andrew, two fishermen, going through a very similar struggle to this. So Luke chapter 5. These men, Simon, Peter and Andrew, they are professional fishermen. This is their livelihood. This is what they do for a living. If they don't catch fish, they don't make any money. So they would have to have been pretty good at what they do. This is their livelihood. You see, they've been fishing all night and have not caught a single thing. They were tired, they felt like they'd wasted their time, wasted their night, and they had nothing to show for it, and they had nothing left to give. Jesus had been down by the river teaching that day. He goes over to the boat, he walks over to them, and he says, throw your nets back in. Simon Peter, very reluctantly, I'm sure he was so exhausted, said, Master, we've worked hard all night. We haven't caught a single thing, but because you say so, I will throw in our nets. And this is where we see the miracle. You see, not only are these nets filled, they are so full that they begin to break. They had to call in a second boat. So between the two boats, they were so full of fish that they began to sink. Jesus had taken their nothing and turned it into something. He took their valley and made it into a victory. And he took their failures and turned them into favour. This is the God that we know. I don't know what stage of life you're in at the moment, and maybe that just hits a chord with you right now, thinking, yeah, I know he can do it, but he doesn't do it for me. But this is who God is. It doesn't matter how big your failure, it doesn't matter how many times you've failed, he can still turn it into something big. He can still turn it into his favour. You see, Jesus didn't just give them what they needed or what they wanted. He multiplied it. He gave it back to them in abundance, more than they knew what to do with. And it's interesting, Simon Peter's response here. You see, in verse 8, his response was one of repentance. This is what he says. When Simon Peter saw this, he Jesus' knees and he said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." Why was he repentant? Why was he repentant? You see, that day he had sat by the river and listened to Jesus' teaching. He'd heard that he was sent by God and he had the power of God upon him. He knew, deep down I'm sure he knew of what God was capable of, what Jesus could do, yet he doubted. He doubted. He knew he hadn't trusted in that miracle. You see, he allowed what he could see in front of him, his own failures, to determine the outcome of that situation. And then Jesus responds back to Simon by saying this: "Don't be afraid, because from now on you will fish for people." Not only does Jesus comfort him, he tells him not to be afraid, and he doesn't judge his efforts. But Jesus then calls him to something bigger. He says, "You are now going to fish for men." He had something bigger and better in store for him. And this is part of the miracle too. You see, he not only gave them more fish than they needed themselves, he gave them enough to share with others. I don't know about you, but do you want to know this morning how we can allow God to take our failures and turn them into favour? We just need to invite him into our boat. Invite him into your biggest challenge, your deepest frustration, your greatest hurt. Invite Jesus into your boat and trust him enough to let down your nets again. Even if you're exhausted and you don't have it in you, trust him enough to let them down. Even if you've tried over and over again and again, no result, invite Jesus into your failures, into your struggles, into your hurt, into your brokenness, and trust him to do something amazing. Trust him to do that miracle. And just like Simon Peter's response, maybe today yours needs to be like this. Maybe your response needs to be, but. In verse 5, Simon Peter says this. He doesn't want to try again. Okay, he's tired, he's had enough.